Right now, someone is replaying a memory of the person who hurt them most. Not the good version, the real one. The version where they screamed, where they lied, where they made you feel small enough to disappear, and somehow, tonight, you miss them. That's not weakness. That's not stupidity. That's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. But here's the strange part. The people who hurt us the most often live the longest inside our heads, not the people who loved us well. The ones who hurt us. Why? Scientists didn't find the answer by studying heartbreak. They found it by studying addiction. In the 1970s, researchers strapped electrodes to rats. Every time a rat pressed a lever, it got a hit of dopamine straight to the brain. The rats pressed that lever until they collapsed. Some starved to death rather than stop. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Dopamine isn't the feel-good chemical everyone thinks it is. It's the maybe chemical. It fires hardest not when you get a reward, but when you're not sure if you will. Uncertainty is more addictive than pleasure, and that's when things got weird, because that's exactly how toxic relationships work. Not constant pain, not constant love, a pattern, kindness, then cruelty, warmth, then silence. Just enough affection to keep you hoping, just enough pain to keep you desperate. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement. Casino owners call it a slot machine. Your brain can't tell the difference. That's why you don't miss the people who were always good to you the same way. There's no mystery there, no gamble, no lever to keep pulling. But the person who hurt you, every text felt like a jackpot. Every apology felt like winning. Your brain wasn't loving them, it was chasing them. But this raises a bigger question. If your brain knows they hurt you, why doesn't it just stop? In 2010, a study out of Stony Brook University put people in an fMRI scanner, not people healing from heartbreak, people still obsessed with an ex who rejected them. Researchers expected to see the pain centers of the brain light up. What they discovered shocked everyone. The area that activated wasn't the pain center, it was the same region that activates in cocaine addiction. Rejection didn't calm the craving, rejection intensified it. The less available someone becomes, the more your brain screams that you need them. This is where things get disturbing, because it means heartbreak isn't really about love, it's about withdrawal. And there's a reason it feels physically unbearable. Because to your nervous system, it is physical. Losing someone you're attached to doesn't just hurt emotionally, it activates the exact same neural pathway as physical pain. Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA proved this in an experiment that should terrify anyone who's ever said, just get over it. She had participants play a simple ball-tossing game online, while lying in a brain scanner. Except the game was rigged. Eventually, the other players stopped throwing the ball to them. Simple social exclusion. Nothing violent, nothing physical. But the brain scans showed activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that lights up when you break a bone. Being ignored, being abandoned, being hurt by someone who once loved you. Your brain doesn't file it under emotional, it files it under injury. That's the worst part. You're not just missing a person, you're recovering from a wound your brain believes is real, even when there isn't a mark on your body. But if this is just biology, why do some people escape it fast while others stay trapped for years? The answer turns out to be far stranger than anyone expected. And it has almost nothing to do with how much they loved the person who hurt them. It has to do with something that happened to them long before that person ever entered their life. That's where we go next. Somewhere in your childhood, before you could even speak in full sentences, your brain built a template, a blueprint for what love is supposed to feel like. And here's the disturbing part. That blueprint isn't built from the people who loved you gently. It's built from the people who loved you inconsistently. In the 1950s, a psychologist named John Bowlby started studying children separated from their parents. What he found didn't just explain childhood, it explained adulthood. He discovered that children don't attach most strongly to the parent who is most reliable. They attach most strongly to the parent who is least predictable, a parent who is warm sometimes, and cold other times, and distant, and then suddenly loving again. The child doesn't learn this person is unsafe. The child learns, I must try harder to earn this. That wiring doesn't disappear when you turn 18. It just changes shape. It becomes who you're drawn to at 25, at 35, at any age you fall in love. But here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. Studies on adult attachment styles found something almost cruel. People with anxious attachment, the ones who grew up chasing inconsistent love, don't just tolerate unpredictable partners, they're chemically drawn to them. Stability can feel boring to a nervous system trained on chaos. Peace can feel like a red flag. And the people who hurt us often sense this without even realizing it. Not because they're master manipulators, because they were shaped by the same broken blueprint. Hurt people don't just hurt people. Hurt people recognize other hurt people. Instantly, unconsciously, like two magnets finding their opposite pole in a crowded room. But none of that was the real problem. The real problem is what happens after you finally leave. You'd think walking away ends the craving. It doesn't. In fact, researchers found something almost cruel about breakups. The withdrawal doesn't peak the day you leave, it peaks weeks later, because your brain isn't just missing a person, it's missing a routine, a neurochemical rhythm it had built its entire day around. The good morning text, the late night call, the specific way they said your name. Remove all of it at once and your brain doesn't experience relief. It experiences a chemical famine. This is why people go back. Not because the relationship was good, because the withdrawal became unbearable, and their brain, starving for the old dopamine spikes, mistook that desperation for love. And here's where the story takes its darkest turn, because knowing all of this doesn't automatically save you. You can understand the neuroscience, you can name the attachment style, you can explain intermittent reinforcement to a room full of strangers, and still at 2 a.m. you'll pick up your phone. Still, you'll type their name. Still, some small ancient part of your brain will whisper, maybe this time is different. Almost nobody realizes this next part until it's too late. The moment you finally stop missing them isn't the moment you stop loving them. It's something else entirely. Something researchers only fully understood after studying people who actually recovered. Not the ones who just moved on, but the ones who genuinely healed. And what separated them from everyone else wasn't time. It wasn't a new relationship, it was one specific, uncomfortable thing almost no one wants to do. That's next. Researchers studying recovery from painful relationships expected to find the usual suspects. Time, distraction, a new partner. But here's the strange part. None of those predicted who actually healed. The one thing that did? Grieving the fantasy, not the person. Because here's the truth almost nobody wants to hear. You don't miss who they were. You miss who you needed them to be. The version of them that existed in the good moments. The version from the beginning, before the mask slipped. Your brain kept that version alive in a locked room, separate from the pain, protected from the evidence. And every time you replay the memory of them, you're not visiting the past. You're visiting a person who never fully existed. That's when things got weird for researchers studying trauma bonds, because they found that the intensity of missing someone has almost nothing to do with how good the relationship actually was. It has everything to do with how unfinished it feels. Unresolved pain doesn't fade like resolved pain does. Your brain treats an open loop as unfinished business. Something to keep working on, keep replaying, keep trying to solve. A breakup with closure heals in months. A breakup without it can haunt you for years. Not because the love was stronger, because the ending was incomplete. This is why the silent ones, the ones who left without explanation, who disappeared, who never gave you the conversation you needed, are often the hardest to forget. Your brain isn't missing them. It's still trying to close a door that was never shut. But this raises the darkest question of all. If missing someone who hurt you is just biology, just chemistry, just an ancient survival mechanism misfiring in a modern world, does that mean it was never really about them at all? The answer is yes. And that answer is either the most disturbing thing you'll hear today, or the most freeing. Because the moment you understand this, something shifts. You stop asking, why do I still want them back? And you start asking, what did I learn to believe love was long before I ever met them? That question is the one that actually heals people, not closure from the other person. Closure from themselves. The people who recover fastest aren't the ones who forget. They're the ones who finally see the pattern clearly enough to stop repeating it. They stop chasing the ghost of a good version that only ever lived in fragments. They stop mistaking chaos for chemistry and inconsistency for passion. And here's the final, uncomfortable truth. You were never addicted to them. You were addicted to the hope that they would finally become who you needed them to be. That hope is what kept the lever pulling. That hope is what lit up the same part of your brain that lights up in addiction. That hope is what made walking away feel like withdrawal, and their silence feel like starvation. Not love. Hope, weaponized by uncertainty. So tonight, when their name crosses your mind again, and it will, remember this. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not still in love with a person. You're grieving a version of them that only ever existed in your imagination, and a version of yourself that was willing to shrink just to keep them close. The healing doesn't start when you stop missing them. It starts the moment you stop missing who you were pretending they could be.